Oh, sorry.
Travel.
Okay, we're talking travel.
It's 6:30, so we'll
Okay.
get going. We have a lot to go through tonight, so I'm going to call the meeting to order and request a roll call, please.
Mr. Newmoff,
Present.
Ms. Kalinowski,
Here.
Vice President Darrow.
Here.
President McClelland.
Here, we have the whole group together, so let's please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like a motion to approve the board minutes from the 12th and the 30, let's see, what days do we have here? Yeah, so the 12th and the 23rd minutes from the previous board meetings. Do I have a motion, please? So moved. Mr. Darrow, second.
Second.
Ms. Kalinowski, roll call, please.
Vice President Darrow.
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski.
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff.
Yes.
President McClelland.
Yes. And then for tonight's agenda, any additions or corrections to the agenda?
No.
No? So if I could get a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Newmoff? Second. Mr. Darrow. Roll call, please.
Mr. Newmoff.
Yes.
Vice President Darrow.
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski.
Yes.
President McClelland.
Yes. And communications to the board. Mr. Sawyers.
Thank you, President McClellan. I'm going to be brief this evening, giving our timeline. There's two things I want to highlight for the Board of Education and our community at large. First is this past Saturday, we had the privilege of hosting Science Olympiad on the school campus. There were over 3,000 people that participated or visited the school campus on Saturday. It was absolutely insane as far as people. They were everywhere. So from the high school gymnasium to the 2-8 gym to the cafeterias to the building academics, everything that happened was an outstanding weekend to showcase the school district, and our kids. So congratulations to Mrs. LeBeau, Mrs. Jasper at the middle school, and everyone that participated in Science Olympiad. It was quite an event. And if you wondered what happened in our community on Saturday with all the cars everywhere, that's why. So we hosted Science Olympiad. There were people here from all over the state. And we did extremely well. So congratulations to everyone that participated. Next is planning for 17-18, just as a quick update for the Board of Education. We continue to make progress. Staffing is under full way with the building administrators. We've completed preliminary staffing for the high school based upon student course requests and ultimately course sectioning for next year. Middle school, and then this morning we met on elementary. So within the next 2 weeks, I'll have some more specifics to share with you at your work session in March, but we are on plan and on target for fulfilling the staffing requirements. And then lastly, for the community forum, I just want to put in a plug that is being held here in the community on March 20th. We had our first planning meeting with the city, the township, and our health partners for the substance abuse, the first of a series of community forums on well-being. It will be held at the Jeannie B. McCoy Performing Arts Center on Monday, March 20th at 7 o'clock. So additional information is forthcoming to the school community tomorrow afternoon on that very topic. So we're on track, and it's going to be a wonderful event, and we hope to have the auditorium filled, or the theater filled. We can hold 750. So we're hoping 750 people will come on Monday, March 20th.
Very good. Thank you very much. Update from PLE. Mrs. Zarko.
Hello, Superintendent Sawyers and Board of Education and public members. Thank you for listening to us again. I've already handed out the notes for you to read in detail. We have over 11 submissions from our staff and PLE members. I'm only going to highlight 5 of them for you because it's quite extensive. I'll start with the second entry. Chrissy Pratt, Jenny Callahan hosted a Genius Hour presentation. Students in their 3rd grade class spent the first half of the year researching any topic of their choosing. The students had to create 3 research questions and then dive into researching them using books and internet sources. Students then had to create a unique way to present their projects. They created posters, Google slideshows, 3D models, and interactive games that helped them present their research. And then on February 8th, the students stayed after school from 4 to 6 p.m. to show off their hard work to both families and community members. Seeing the pride on students' faces while presenting their passions in a way that was 100% created by themselves was priceless. Genius Hour projects allow students to pursue their own passions and provide choices in their own learning. Students gained valuable research experience through exploring their questions, as well as speaking and listening skills through presenting. This fosters creativity for students, and it's also creating a supportive classroom environment where students can be problem solvers and take risks without fear. Second, Richie Wildenhouse, the high school AD, and Amy Glenn, the high school varsity girls track coach, Pat Samonich, the high school head football coach, and Mark Wilson, the Eagle backers and community member, attended a professional development seminar in February. It was the Inside Out Initiatives, and it's a national initiative to transform the current win-at-all-cost sports culture, where the value is too often defined by the scoreboard, to a culture that defines and promotes sports as a human growth experience that focuses on intentional development of the educational, social, and emotional well-being of each student athlete. It creates space for an education-based sports philosophy that defines the purpose of educational-based athletics. It still instills a common language for schools. It provides education and establishes clear expectations to all leaders and community members. It also creates a clear path that ultimately provides students with a richer experience, one that fosters learning, growth, and a connection to caring adults in the school community. In fourth grade, Mrs. Mackey's class led her students to learn about the background of slavery in America, what slave life was like, and what led up to the Underground Railroad and the Civil War. Their class in language arts created lap books, and these lap books allowed students to demonstrate their knowledge gained throughout the unit. The fourth graders then shared their lap books with second graders in their SLC. Both the fourth graders and second graders enjoyed their experience. On the back of your page, I want to share with you about Carrie Horton. Carrie Horton and the New Albany High School a cappella singers sang at the Kobecker House Hospice on December 18th. Members of the a cappella singers took time before exams to spend the evening singing holiday songs for hospice patients and their families. Attached to this packet is comments that all of the high school students made about how they felt about the experience. It's really rewarding to read it. The students speak quite eloquently, and they shared how this experience was beneficial for them and how much it meant to them. And then last but not least, the 2-5 building staff is providing additional programming that they have implemented to build community at the 2-5 building, which includes PBIS, which stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. They also have had a goal setting assembly. They have Mix It Up Days, which are meant to teach tolerance, and Say Hello, which is a Sandy Hook initiative. This past month, the staff and students at the 2-5 building participated in It Starts With Hello, which is the Sandy Hook initiative to end social isolation. We've also been implementing each trimester a Mix It Up Day where the students are encouraged to accept differences and continue to strengthen a positive school culture. Teachers and students in each classroom are participating in a daily kindness challenge during the month of February. And then the staff have also started providing students with a conversation starter written on the whiteboard in the cafeteria during lunch to help foster positive social interactions. All of these educational programs help provide a caring, supportive school environment, which helps improve students' academic success by improving their academic attitudes, motivation, engagement, and goal setting. So feel free to read through the others, and thank you for letting us share again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oopsie, no oopsie this evening. Okay. So moving along to our discussion items, and the first discussion item tonight is math progressions.
I'd like to invite Mr. Emery, the Director of Elementary Education, to the podium. He's going to update you on the work that the Curriculum Division's been doing since the start of the school year to honor a request that Dr. Troyer and I presented at the start of the school year when we reinstated the Curriculum Department. Mr. Emery.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyers. When I began this role in August, one of the first tasks charged to me by Superintendent Sawyers and Assistant Superintendent Troyer was mathematics, specifically the need to explore our elementary accelerated math classes to determine if our courses are successfully meeting the needs of our students, or are they moving students through too much math content too quickly, which could adversely impact our students. The challenge since August was finding a sequence of classes that would keep our strongest math students moving at an accelerated pace by balancing the long-term implications for those students skipping too much content and reaching advanced placement calculus during their sophomore year. The feedback from the secondary math department to me last summer was that the elementary math progressions for advanced students were moving too quickly, and in some cases having students skipping multiple years of content. The math courses I'm sharing with you this evening are what we will put into place next year at New Albany Intermediate School to achieve that balance between the need for our advanced students to move at a faster pace, but still receive direct instruction from our teachers to minimize the amount of skipped content and to lead to greater academic outcomes and future student success in our secondary math courses. This plan I'll share with you this evening has been vetted by my colleague, secondary curriculum coordinator, Dr. Hamilton, the elementary administrative team, including our future intermediate school principal, Mrs. Nowak, the elementary accelerated math teachers, the elementary and secondary gifted coordinators, the middle school and high school math department chair people, the Parent Curriculum Advisory Council during 2 meetings that Dr. Hamilton and I held with them this year, and the Parent Gifted Advisory Committee. And obviously with final approval from Superintendent Sawyers and Dr. Troyer. In addition, I presented this plan to all members of the high school math department 2 weeks ago and received their unanimous support, and this plan was presented to the entire K-6 teaching staff last week at our in-service day. Today's 2528 parent newsletter had these new math progressions included in it. In addition to the graphical representation you'll see behind me, the parents also have access to frequently asked question documents on our district website. I'll make myself available during parent-teacher conferences next week to answer any questions, and of course, as all of us are, we're all available by phone and email to our elementary parents. So if you look at the math progressions on the screen behind me or on the paper I handed out to you on your board docs, you'll see that the typical progression stays as it always has been, leading to calculus or pre-calculus senior year. And to access pre-calculus senior year, you would take Algebra 1 in 9th grade. However, for advanced math students who are identified at the end of 3rd or 4th grade, they will be subject-specific accelerated in math by 1 year and access a 2-year course called Pre-Algebra A and Pre-Algebra B during their 5th and 6th grade years. Pre-Algebra A and B will cover all of the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math content over the course of 2 school years. This will lead to Algebra 1 in 7th grade for these students, which then leads to AP Calculus AB during junior year and the option of AP Calculus BC during their senior year. For students who do not meet the acceleration guidelines to skip content at the end of 3rd or 4th grade, we will be offering an opportunity at the end of 5th grade to access the Pre-Algebra A and B sequence of courses during those students' 6th and 7th grade years. Doing this will lead to Algebra 1 in 8th grade, which then makes calculus a course option as a senior. Not highlighted on the chart behind me, but included in the information that was shared with parents today are exit ramps for students who are already being accelerated in math who realize that the pacing may be too fast. And why this graphic shows the most common math pathways, parents have a right to request to our gifted coordinator for individual testing to determine if their child can move at an even faster pace than what's represented on the chart. So now that our intermediate school math pathways have been established, my next task is to select math materials for the elementary grades to ensure the implementation of a guaranteed and viable curricula, common assessments, and increased mathematical outcomes for our students. We have a teacher committee meeting this Wednesday to screen different math programs and interview company representatives, and all parents were notified today in both the 2.5 and K1 newsletters that they can meet with me or a member of the math committee during parent-teacher conference week if they would like to review the materials themselves. I hope to make a recommendation to Superintendent Sawyers and Dr. Troyer soon and plan to present to you our final selection at a future meeting for your adoption. Thank you.
So if I may, just for really public accolade, Scott, Dr. Hamilton, Dr. Troyer, and really the math committee have done a yeoman's amount of work with the building administrators to talk about this topic in math progressions. So what Scott just did in about 6 minutes has taken plus or minus 5 months to actually go through and with all the different variables and tied to this math progression and have the conversations to really identify what specifically is happening right now in the school district, what's the best practice for kids, and more importantly, how do we support kids in the learning endeavor to ensure that the outcomes continue to increase for what our expectations are for mathematics. So I just want to commend Scott and the teachers and the building administrators, the administrators in the school district that worked with the parents and all the different committees that Scott rattled off. But what he just said in 6 minutes doesn't really represent the amount of work that was required to accomplish this. And this was the #1 thing that was put on his plate to talk about mathematics specifically because of what we have identified for gaps within the school district. So congratulations to Scott and everyone else involved. I just want you to know that this sounds simple. It was not.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr.
Question or two on how kids move through. So the progression for acceleration, do they have to test in? They have to, what are the parameters that allow a kid to move up or skip some material? Are they able to appeal if they don't get what they want? How does that all work here?
Specifically for the 3rd and 4th graders, we do use the MAP assessment 3 times over the course of the year. And we'll look at that spring score, potentially the winter score if we need to. If a student can test on the MAP assessment comparable to a child of the grade that they're skipping of the 80th percentile, that's currently what we're using as the criteria. We'll also, though, look back at their in-view cognitive scores from either the year prior or even for our 4th graders, we'll be able to look at this year's scores to see if there's any concerns with their cognitive results that might not make this in their best interest long term. We'll have a lower standard leaving 5th grade. I think a concern that was raised to me last summer from parents was they felt that we were determining the overall secondary math progressions when a child was 8 or 9 years old. So we'll be looking at the end of 5th grade to have much more parent input on whether or not their child can access the algebra A and B pathway during their 6th and 7th grade year. But there's got to be a cutoff. So there'll be some bottom level where you cannot access pre-algebra A. You will have to go into Math 6. But we'll have a much lower cutoff, so more parents will have an option to think if this is in the best interest of their child.
But ultimately, the school, the educators will make the final decision if there's this cutoff. If the educators determine that it's not in the best interest of the child, regardless of what the child or the parents want, that's the cutoff.
Well, for 5th grade, if a child, let's say we use the 75th percentile as the criteria. So if you're at the 75th percentile compared to all American 5th graders in math in the spring of your 5th grade year, then we're going to turn that decision over to the parents. There'll be guidance from the staff, and we've developed a rubric for the parents to really have to reflect on what we've heard from the secondary teachers could be long-term issues. But we believe at that point they can decide on pre-algebra A or Math 6. But there really is no parent option to leave when you're leaving 3rd grade or 4th grade where they can choose to go into Math 5 or pre-algebra A. You have to qualify based on your test scores. But there is an appeal process, and that was covered in the FAQs that we put on the website so parents would know what their rights are.
I just want to say again, thank you for all the work you've put into it. I'm sort of in the throes of the 2-5 building right now, so I appreciate it. And I've heard from other parents about all the work that you've done and trying to get all the questions answered. So thank you. I did have a question. Toward the end of your remarks, you mentioned you're interviewing vendors for curriculum.
Yes.
Could you maybe just compare and contrast like sort of where we've been and where that might go going forward? Will it be substantially different?
I'll certainly go more in depth when I bring you the recommendation. But with the transition across the country, particularly in Ohio, to the Common Core math curriculum, there really weren't great resources available. So our teachers have done an amazing job creating their own resources or compiling resources from other colleagues in other districts or other resources that are available online. But I believe we're at the point now, if you're looking for a viable and consistent curricula across all of our classrooms in math, having a common set of materials would be very, very important. And so we're looking at not holding kids back and slowing down progressions by adopting common materials, but rather let teachers emphasize their time in planning great lessons as opposed to developing all the assessments on their own, developing the scope and sequences on their own. It's really been amazing to me what they've accomplished over these past 4 or 5 years without any common materials, but it's time for the transition.
This is really helpful to me just to see the progression from start to finish and all the different, turn points for the kids. It just makes it much clearer to me. So thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.